it's just played. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
Let's go. I talked about this last week. We said we weren't going to do a show for a month, so you can excuse Godfrey for not being here. It's okay. After that Super Bowl, though, I didn't feel okay. Guardy 3 didn't feel okay. My man, the Prince of Production, didn't feel okay not having a show. We had to talk. We had to have a conversation. So let's get started. Let's talk about some stuff. Super Bowl happened. Before we get started, got to introduce the two men that will be surrounding me for the next 45 minutes to an hour. In the upper left corner, I got the Prince of Production for Sports Empire Network, the man, the myth, the Kyle legend.
What's up? Look, like you said, the Super Bowl was too good that we just had to talk about it. It's kind of sad that the season's over with, but the NFL is a 12-month-a-year thing, so there's always gonna be something to talk about. But I'm ready to talk football with you guys.
Ain't that a fact? In the upper right corner, we got Guardy 2. Nope. Guardy 3. How you feeling tonight, Brett?
Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm super hyped to talk about the Super Bowl and whatever other topics we broach upon. Looking forward to it.
Well, I want to start with the Super Bowl. Let me start with the Super Bowl as a whole, because when we looked at that Super Bowl Sunday, feels like yesterday. When we looked at that Super Bowl Sunday, I hate it. This is the biggest pet peeve I had, where people are like, yeah, the first half of the game was bad. Nah, bro, I love defense. I loved watching bracket coverage. I loved the way the 49ers were defending Kelsey in the first half. I loved the way Spagnuolo schemed up different blitzes to slow down the 49ers. I loved the way both teams were stopping the run and what they were using to do that. I loved the tight windows and throws Brock Purdy was making in the first half. And we'll talk about Steve Wilks, Jordan. We will talk about Steve Wilks. But I loved everything about that game, including the halftime performance. I could have did without the Reba McEntire's second of Brave, because I had the under and it went over because she said the damn thing twice. But that's okay. We're going to talk about that. Your thoughts on the overall game? Were you bored in the first half? Did you think it was a slow starting game, or did you enjoy the entire football game like I did? Carl, I'll start with you.
No, I was fully invested in it. I don't need the Super Bowl to be like 50-45 to be entertained. As long as it's not like, terrible offense and all that. I feel like the defenses were playing a chess match with each other to see, who could confuse which quarterback, who could disrupt whose offensive system first. Yeah, there was a couple of turnovers, but that was just attributed to good defenses. So yeah, I was fully invested in it. I was on the edge of my seat every second of the game. So fully loved it.
I loved every bit of it, except the one thing I didn't love. I hated seeing Dre Greenlaw pop his Achilles.
Oh yeah, everybody did. That was rough.
It. And to watch what I love doing after the Super Bowl. Guardy 3 is probably one of these people too. I love watching the mic'd up moments. I love seeing like the internal conversations, and the love that Fred Warner has for Dre Greenlaw is just cannot be stated. They're brothers, man. They are brothers. Guardy 3, did you see the moment where Fred Warner like sees that and how upset he gets, and then having to console him on the sideline?
Yeah, that you can tell he has a lot of love for Dre, and just an unfortunate situation all around. When it comes to the Super Bowl, you want to see everybody stay healthy and just all the best players play. So seeing an unfortunate injury like that, it was just wasn't fun to watch.
Definitely wasn't. Got to talk about a lot of different things in the game. But I think that was the turning point in the game. I think that was the turning point for I actually think the 49ers, and this is actually really funny, I say this, but I actually think that the 49ers were one of the most unlucky teams in that Super Bowl. Now, what does that mean? That means that the the Kansas City Chiefs fumbled the ball 5 times, recovered it 4. What does that mean? It means that Dre Greenlaw popped his Achilles, not on a football play. He popped his Achilles on what would be constituted as running onto the football field. He was excited, jumping up and down.
Right. Yeah.
I felt so bad for him, man. And listen, as a guy that I didn't care who won the football game. Yeah, I would like to have been right with the 49ers. But the thing that like was interesting to me is I would rather see the Chiefs win that football game. But it broke my heart watching Dre Greenlaw pop his Achilles. And I really think that was the turning point of the game. Guardy 3, what are your thoughts? What do you think the turning point of the football game was?
Besides the Greenlaw injury, which was huge, I think the other turning point was the 49ers fumbling that punt. Unfortunately, it hit one of their guys, so the returner, name slipping from my mind right now, but he felt like he had to go return it, otherwise it would have been the Chiefs' ball, and he just could not come up with it. So it really felt like, besides the Greenlaw injury, the other real big moment that turned the game around is when they fumbled that punt, gave the Chiefs short field position, gave them the confidence after they scored, and it all kind of went downhill from there for them.
I completely agree with you. I think it hit McLeod's foot, if I'm not mistaken. I think it hit. Well, actually, no. Ray McLeod was the one that tried to recover the ball. I think it hit Darrell Luter Jr.'s foot. Darrell Luter Jr.'s foot, and obviously Ray McLeod tried jumping on the football and didn't get the opportunity to do that. So that was interesting. That was a turning point. And I agree with you because the first play right after that, the 49ers had just got off the field, just got the 3 and out. And then the next play, it was touchdown. Godfrey, welcome to the show. I appreciate you hopping on. We explained earlier that it's my fault, and I just couldn't go a week without talking football. But I appreciate you hopping on. What do you think the turning point of that football game was?
The moment Kyle Shanahan picked up a clipboard.
I'm not against it.
Listen, I went into that game knowing that he is Captain Jinx. Even when the Niners were up, I hammered the money line with the Chiefs where it was a plus money several times. And I just felt like the whole time it was setting up, and I don't mean it was scripted. It was just setting up for a game-winning Chiefs drive. You know, they had to have some things go their way. You know, when you look at the team schematically, you know, they lost Mike McGlinchey to free agency in the offseason. I know the Broncos overpaid a little bit for him, but if you have Mike McGlinchey in that line versus the guy that they had there, is Chris Jones stopped by half a second more? Then does Jawan Jennings have a little bit more separation in time for Brock Purdy to throw that ball and get that touchdown? Could have made a difference. I mean, you know, those things that we don't really see them extrapolate out in one game. You got to look from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And part of the reason I was low on the Niners and I had a bad take about them not making the playoffs was because their offensive line did get weaker season over season when you look from last year to this year.
They did.
And the thing is, you know, that's why even with the Dre Greenlaw injury, huge thing. But I just feel like once the game played out, it was still going to be the Chiefs. You know, and Kyle Shanahan, you know, I don't think he was wrong for taking the ball first. A lot of people do. I don't think he was.
We'll argue that. We will argue that. Trust me, that is a conversation. I have no problem letting you know how wrong you are in that conversation. That's okay. What we will talk about, though, is you mentioned a couple things. And in the things that you mentioned, Godfrey, I think the thing that stands out most to me is the way Kyle Shanahan managed the football game. I think when Dre Greenlaw got hurt, and Steve Wilkes got fired after the game, and we're going to talk about that. But when Greenlaw got hurt, I felt like that Wilkes was more of the issue than Shanahan. And I'll talk about that. Listen, I am normally the guy saying that it's BS. I don't think, first of all, let me start with saying I don't think Wilkes should have been fired. Can I start there? Can we digest that part for a minute? I don't think Wilkes should have been fired. However, for 2.5 football games in a postseason of 3 football games, the 49ers defense was terrible. Now, to start this football game, I thought their coverage on Travis Kelce was incredible. They bracketed him with Greenlaw, just like I said they would, and they used the safety over the top. They made him throw to the outside, and they used the safety as leverage on the outside. He had 1 catch for 1 yard before the Greenlaw injury. After the Greenlaw injury, it looked like Steve Wilks had never coached a defense before. Even Romo was on the broadcast saying, well, Kyle Shanahan called a timeout because they're obviously running cover 0, 7 yards off the line of scrimmage, and Pat Mahomes is just picking them apart. Did anyone else notice that? Am I the only one that saw how poorly Wilks coached that second half? And guys, I don't mean to say this, but like
They were dropping 5 in the coverage, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Dropping 5 in coverage, and they were 7, 8 yards off the line of scrimmage and putting everybody else in the line of scrimmage running cover 0. It was a bad look. But I don't want to go too far into that because I want to talk about this. Wilks coached a bad football game versus Green Bay. Wilks coached a bad football game versus Detroit. And who do you blame when you have effort issues on your team? Who is to blame for effort issues? The coach. And on the San Francisco 49ers, they had very notable effort issues on their team in the NFC Championship game. And I'm blaming Steve Wilks for that. I'm a Steve Wilks fan. I think he was railroaded in Arizona. I think he was scapegoated in Carolina. I don't think he was given the right opportunity in Carolina. And I don't think he should be fired. But it's okay to criticize somebody, even though they shouldn't have been fired. However, I still want to put it out there. He deserves the criticism. He coached a bad football game. Anyone else?
So was one of those players who had an effort problem Chase Young?
Yes.
You guys will remember on this show, I said he's not as good as we think he is at this moment in his career as he once was.
We did.
And it showed up on the field 100%. I don't know if he could coach effort in when a guy, I think, wasn't at the level that they thought they were getting. And we all thought, wow, Montez Sweat got more of a price tag than Chase Young. And as it played out, it was the right price tag.
You're right.
I mean,
spot on, Godfrey.
So
but Nick Bosa was also a person that had issues with effort. He was giving up on play on the other side of the field.
The Bosas are head cases. Can we agree that both Bosas have head case problems?
Absolutely.
I mean, they're head cases, like through and through. As great as they can be, someone that's coaching needs to say, "Listen, shut up, get out of your own head, and go do your job." He's a little Patriots, old school Patriots love.
So I'll tell you why, guys. I hammered the under on George Kittle yards. The reason Shanahan didn't use Kittle, and I want to get right back to Kyle and Gardy 3 on this, on the Steve Wilks thing. But the reason you posted it, so I got to talk about it. The reason they didn't use Kittle is because they ran cover 0 and they used Kittle in blitz protection the majority of the football game. Kansas City was disguising blitzes and Kittle was staying home to protect Purdy. But Gardy 3, I need to hear your take on the overall. Do you blame it more on Shanahan? Do you blame it more on Wilks? Or do you blame it more on bad luck for the 49ers?
When it came to the game, I think it's a little bit of both. I think when it comes to a lot of it, I think Wilks really fell apart after Greenlaw went down. They had to throw Oren Burks in there for him. Not great. Now, I do think bad luck in there as well. Like, if you fumble the ball 5 times and you only get it back once, or the other team does, there's a little bit of variance to that. So, overall, I do think that it's probably more – this one's more on Steve Wilks, but I also think there's a lot of bad luck.
What was that linebacker's name?
Oren Burks.
Oh,
I never heard of him before. I was just – who is that?
I've heard of Oren Burks before. But
I have, but I'm just saying, like, it's a steep drop off from Dre Greenlaw.
It is, but like all right. So let me ask you a question: do you think Dre Greenlaw's a top 3 defensive player on their team? And the answer is no.
No.
So like, you lost your 4th or 5th best defender.
They should have been able to adjust. I agree.
That's the point. With all those defensive studs on that team, Kyle, who's more to fault? Kyle Shanahan, Steve Wilks, or do you think they were just unlucky?
I mean, could you fault maybe Shanahan for them not being up by more than 10-3 going into the half? Maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
But they had the fumbles and all that, so you can't really put that on him. I guess defensively, it seems like in the third and the fourth quarter, whenever the Chiefs had like a second and long, the defense just didn't make any sense. Like you said, they were playing like 10 yards off, and all Mahomes was doing was just taking it, throwing it out to the flat, and getting like 6 yards on each play. And I was watching it like at some point, Steve Wilkes is going to have to change it up, and he kind of just stuck with that. But I do agree with you. Wilkes did not deserve to be fired. It kind of seemed like a move where, Shanahan probably heard some Niners fans blaming the defense for the loss, and he was like, "Oh, so the attention's not on me? Let's go ahead and get rid of the guy and put even more onto him." Because look, Shanahan maybe he had a better output than maybe the 28-3 or whatever, but the offense still had some issues in that game. So
Do you think
Shanahan
that they
definitely
articulated
deserves
the ball down the field? To quote Hank Stram, articulate the ball down the field. That's what Mahomes is doing. Articulate.
Well,
like
I
Mahomes
mean,
is one of those great quarterbacks who he's willing to take what you give him.
Yeah.
And if you're going to keep giving him the underneath throws, he's not going to force it downfield, because what's the point of that? So Wilkes just needed to adjust to whatever the adjustment was at halftime and realize playing 10 yards off isn't working. We can mix it up a little bit, not give Mahomes the same look play after play. So that I fully put at Wilkes' foot, but yeah, he should definitely be still employed by the Niners.
I think that 49ers Shanahan hierarchy view him as an outsider. That's why he was expendable. He's not part of the Shanahan tree, so to speak, or one of their guys, so to speak. And I think if it was one of their guys, he'd still be there, but Wilkes isn't. So it was easier to just hang him out to dry and be like, yeah, whatever, it was Wilkes' fault. I mean, listen, what I'm confused about, this goes into Shanahan's.
hold on. Let me respond to something. Do you think a 50-yard field goal is an easy thing to do?
No.
And to tie the Super Bowl with a kicker like Harrison Buckner.
Well, Harrison Buckner is pretty money.
But 50 yards to tie the Super Bowl.
It's not a gimme.
Okay, hold on. So the most important down of the football game, to me, was a defensive down of the football game, was 3rd and 7 on the 33-yard line, and the 49ers ran cover 0 with Fred Warner playing man-to-man coverage on Travis Kelce. On Fred Warner's tombstone, they're going to say a lot of great things. He was an incredible instinctual linebacker. He stopped the run. He was all over the field. You know what they're not going to have on his tombstone? Great coverage guy. Because he's not. And the guy that you're throwing the football to 100 times out of 100 with cover 0 is Travis Kelce. Why in the world is Fred Warner man-to-man? All Kelce did on that play was run away from him. He literally just darted on a crosser. I can't even call it a drag because it wasn't that close to the line of scrimmage. He ran away from him on a crosser for 22 yards for a chip shot field goal to tie the football game.
And truck stick Brown.
You're right, but he truck sticked him into 12.
Yeah.
The play was already done. And that's a terrible play call. And by the way, you want to talk about Wilkes again? 4th and 1 on the 32-yard line in overtime. How in the world do you not think that Patrick Mahomes is keeping that football?
Gene, you're making a great case for firing him. I'm just saying. You're making a great case.
I'm not saying – you ever see the Chris Rock stand-up? I'm not saying they should have killed with OJ. I'm not saying he should have killed her, but I understand. It's a joke, but I'm not saying they should have fired him, but I understand. And I do. Because 4th and 1 and the 32-yard line, the Super Bowl on the line. You think Patrick Mahomes is handing that ball to Isaiah Pacheco? I knew Kyle knew. Did you know? Did you think they were really going to run the ball for a yard up the middle with Pacheco on 4th and 1? Super Bowl on the line?
No.
Okay, well then, and sorry, I didn't even interrupt your point. It sounded like you were getting to Kyle Shanahan, which we're going to get to Kyle too. I'm going to get to Kyle, Mr. Overtime, and I'll go right back to you, but I just wanted to be very clear. Steve Wilkes did not coach a good postseason, period. Was giving up 31 points to the Lions on your bingo card at home. How about trailing Jordan Love in the 4th quarter at home?
That wasn't on my bingo card, but after the Packers game, the Lions competing with them was on my bingo card. And because I was seeing how the defense was unfolding. I mean, I thought they were beatable. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I mean, listen, I think Shanahan had inconsistency in his approach, right? Like they have 3 timeouts left before the half ended, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I remember.
They could have went for 3 right there. They could have tried to push it down the field. They were like, "Oh,
they got the ball with 16 seconds left, though, bro. I don't think they could have went for 3 there. I know what you're talking about,
but why not try? Maybe you get a pass interference call. Maybe I'm just saying you have 3 timeouts.
You're right.
Push the ball downfield. 3 points can make a difference because the block extra point made a difference. And so he wasn't aggressive there, but then he was aggressive, which in the overtime, it's like the approaches aren't consistent, right?
We will talk about the overtime. I want to start with Kyle Shanahan right here, and I'm going to go to Kyle after this. But the Kyle Shanahan part that I want to bring up the most is the way he started the second half. Guys, I understand that Christian McCaffrey touched the ball 30 times. I'm not saying that you have to run the ball to Christian McCaffrey every time. But to throw the ball 6 straight times, up 10 points in the second half, made no sense. It was 3 and out, and then the Chiefs stopped them. I mean, the 49ers stopped them, and then the fumble happened. I think that was a terrible play call and sequence from Kyle Shanahan. They mentioned it multiple times, how he got away from the run. I know the Chiefs were lining the box to stop them from running the ball to Christian McCaffrey. Why not put him and Elijah Mitchell in the backfield? Did you guys feel like Kyle Shanahan's play calling was creative at all during this football game? Creative. I'm not saying, do you feel like they were creative like they were all season? Deebo Samuel in the backfield, motions around this, and that. Did you feel that way or no, Kyle?
No, not at all. There was very little creativity. It's pretty vanilla. And yeah, that the way they opened the third quarter was kind of the point where I was like, there's a very good chance the Chiefs are going to get back in this game, because it screamed 28-3 again. When Julio Jones makes the big catch, all you got to do is run it out, and Shanahan wanted to throw the ball all of a sudden. So I don't know. In his mind, he was like, well, if we come out and just throw it, maybe we get a back-breaking play that crushes the Chiefs. But it's like, the Super Bowl is not the place to experiment with that. You got McCaffrey, you sprinkle him in, throw a screen pass, do something, and play smart. The 3 and outs gave the Chiefs momentum. It made them believe, and then leading up to the punt and all that. But yeah, that was just terrible management on his part to start the second half.
Can I lead you into another play, another poor managed play? And I'm going to ask Guardy 3 about this one. Guardy 3, let me ask you a question real quick. 3rd and 5 from the Chiefs' 35-yard line, coming out of the 2-minute warning. You had a whole timeout to figure this out. The Kansas City Chiefs had used a timeout already. I believe they had 2 left. Yeah, they used 1. They would have had to use a second timeout. Let me ask you a question here real quick. 3rd and 5 from the 35-yard line. Why not run the football there? Why not get 3 yards and then go for it on 4th and 2 and play? Guys, you listen to the intro of the show, right? We play to win the game. Hello?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think it's wild to say this about Kyle Shanahan. Great play designer. I think he's a very good evaluator of talent.
Yeah.
Not a great play caller. And
I don't think he's a bad play caller. I think that
I don't think he's horrible, but I mean, in big situations, we've seen this.
That's
Play,
it.
3.
You nailed it. Big situations. Let me ask you a question real quick. If you took Kyle Shanahan's play calling,
he overthinks it.
Correct. Delete everything, though. Delete everything all season except the last 2 quarters. And then you delete the last 2 quarters and give you the whole season. I think the play calling is different. Guardy 3, do you think Kyle Shanahan on that 3rd and 5 to decide to run the football, made the Chiefs use a second timeout, get the field goal a little closer than 53 yards? Because Once again, Steve Spagnuolo had Kyle Shanahan by the juggernauts. We're going to get in overtime in a minute because 3rd and 5, designed Trent McDuffie untouched through the B gap. Tips the ball, incompletion, 53-yard field goal from a rookie kicker. We don't talk about that enough. They should have lost the game in regulation. Brett.
Yeah, so that was terrible. They should have just ran it, and it's not like that team is devoid of options for running the ball. Even if they're loading up on McCaffrey, all right, you got Debo. You can run a variety of options with him: jet sweeps, toss it to him, get him to the outside if they're loading up the box, or motion Debo. Use McCaffrey as a decoy, and Kyle Juszczyk has proven that he's capable of getting you a couple of tough yards, setting up a manageable 4th and goal. Overall, I think I nailed it in saying that with Kyle Shanahan, he overthought it. He's a great play caller, except he's backwards half the time when it comes to big situations. He overthinks it. He gets too cute, and it absolutely cost him. I think that he's absolutely lucky that he even had a chance in overtime after that disaster of a play call.
I completely agree with you, Brett. I completely agree with you. And we're going to get in overtime in 1 second. We're going to talk about the overtime situation and debacle. I'll put it to you this way, right? You go out, and this is where me and Godfrey are about to argue, and I'm ready. I'm EA.
Can I put my Eagles hat on real quick? I've been seeing a lot of memes out there, and I will be this guy. Nelson Aguilar, more receiving yards total than Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk.
Head right, bro.
George Kittle combined. I mean, listen, Debo was talking all that smack, and he got smacked.
But real quick, before we talk smack and you're throwing your Eagles hat on, Nick Soldavini is right here. Kyle gave up on Elijah Mitchell or CMC in the second half. 3 straight 3-and-outs. Kyle had led and threw the damn ball, and he needs to be held accountable or fired. Also, this dude won't win shit in my eyes. Okay, well, that part's I don't know. But I will say this. You go into overtime, right? I think anyone with 2 brain cells could say, I want the ball second there. And I would love to argue with you, Godfrey. I really, really want to get in. I really want to understand your premise, thinking that they weren't wrong, deferring. So I will pass my time to you, and I would love to hear your understanding of why they shouldn't have deferred, and I will tell you why you're wrong.
I think it's a thin line between genius and, failure, being aggressive and being not aggressive. I mean, I think to beat a guy like Mahomes, you got to take him out. So if they score there, which they had a shot, it's like, wow, what a ballsy call by him to do that. And then he's a genius, right? Like, you get a half a second more holding Chris Jones at bay, and Juwan Jennings most likely catches that touchdown, and we're not even having this conversation. You know what I mean?
Well, we are having a conversation because Mahomes went down and scored a touchdown.
He did, but then he's tying it up. And if you want to win the damn game right there, which I know he would never do this, you could go for the 2-point conversion.
They were going to go
up 6.
Kansas City said they were going to go for 2.
Yeah, if they had to go, because they have to tie it up at that point, though, right?
No, follow me real quick, right? Do you think it's easier to get a first down when you have 3 downs or 4? Just one.
It's 4, but I mean,
okay, all right, hold on.
I can't fault a guy for trying to take it by the teeth and win it, and thinking that
you don't win it. Do you know the overtime rules?
Yeah. No, he's saying his defense is going to be able to stop them. That's what they're saying.
It easier to stop him with 3 downs or 4?
I mean, it's 3, but still, if you score a touchdown, it's a whole different set of pressure, though.
Let me ask you a question. 4th and 1 from their own 32-yard line. Do you think the Kansas City Chiefs still go for it if they get the ball first?
What, you mean that deep in the zone?
4th and 1 from their own 32. That was the first part of the drive. That was the read option play to Patrick Mahomes where he ran the ball for the first down. If they get the ball
that's not an overtime, though.
It is an overtime, 100%.
So if they turn the ball over, the game's over there, though.
Yes, Godfrey, that's my point. If the Chiefs get the ball first in overtime and they have it 4th and 1 from their own 32, do they punt or do they go for it?
They're gonna punt.
Okay.
But
Then all San Fran would have needed would have been a field goal to win the football game.
that's true. But if you can put the pressure on and score the touchdown, I don't see that as a bad call. I mean, I think that could go either way.
I love you. It's a terrible call because if the Chiefs go down and score a touchdown, they're going to kick the extra point, right? Because the 49ers are going to get the ball, and you're not going to take the risk of missing a 2-point conversion, and then all the 49ers have to do is score a touchdown, kick the extra point. So they're going to kick the extra point. So then the 49ers have 4 downs to go down the football field and match what the Chiefs do. Now, the other way to look at it is, and I have the play chart right here. Here's overtime, right? 4th and 1, own 34-yard line. Patrick Mahomes right tackle for 8 yards. That if it's 4th and 1 in that situation, I think they punt. Brett, do you think they punt in that scenario?
Yeah, I think they'd almost have to. You don't want to risk, handing them an easy field goal at that point.
And they could literally just, if they miss the ball on 4th and 1, they don't get it. They could literally kick a field goal. The game's over. That's it. One play. They could run the ball 3 times at the middle with CMC, get a yard each time, and kick a 48-yard field goal, and the Super Bowl's over.
The way the second half went, Derek, I'm saying you can't receive the ball in the first in OT.
He's right.
Yeah, I mean,
even if the Chiefs did score a touchdown, we can go back to that drive. The 49ers drove all the way down the field. Here's the play chart, right? I have the play chart for the 49ers. By the way, a lot of people don't mention how great of a throw Brock Purdy made on a 3rd and 2. Brock Purdy made a throw to Ayuk, and then a 2nd and 12. He made a 13-yard pass to Kyle Juszczyk at the Chiefs' 15-yard line. 1st and 10 from the Chiefs' 15. CMC 6-yard carry. They had 2nd and 4 from the Kansas City 9. I 2nd and 4 from the Kansas City 9. I don't know, bro. I'm telling you,
he clearly didn't have confidence in his defense. I mean, that's remember the timeout he called to be like, "Yo, Steve Wilkes changed the defense. We don't want to play right here." You mentioned, yes. So I mean, if you think your defense is reeling, and you think your offense is better, that's where his head's at. And he's like, "I'm going for it right now."
Why not touch the ball second so you know what you need to do? Kyle, what are your thoughts? I really want to hear your opinion.
So I think the major flaw here is I'm kind of with Godfrey that I thought it was foolish to take the ball first, but I understood it up until they got into the red zone and the play calling there. I assumed if he was going to take the ball first, if it was a 4th and manageable, you go for it. Because what's the point of taking the ball first to kick a field goal knowing what Derek said? The defense has been struggling in the second half. So if the Chiefs get the ball and all you do is kick a field goal, there's a good chance the Chiefs are getting a touchdown.
Yep.
That's why I thought they should go for it on that 4th down, and they didn't.
Right.
That's
so
why
that was my only issue with that. I'm not
you get the ball
with him
first.
going first.
You get the ball first, and then you don't go for it.
First, but he has to go for a touchdown. He has to go for a
touchdown. Godfrey, if you're saying that, Godfrey, I'll listen to you. I disagree with you, but I'll listen to you if you have that mentality that you have to go for the touchdown no matter what.
Well, that's where you're getting the ball for if you want to score a touchdown. Like that's the whole premise of that, right? Like you're not doing it to kick a field goal.
So then why they kick the field goal?
Because it was a bad call. Like that's why I don't get it. Like when they did that, I was like, what? I was like, all right. I guess they think the D's gonna stop Patrick Mahomes, which as soon as that happened, I was like, game's over. Game's over. Game's over.
Didn't that remind you of the Falcons Patriots? Didn't that remind you of the Falcons Patriots?
Yes.
When Brady got the ball in the Super Bowl and everyone in the whole world knew he was going to score a touchdown?
Yeah.
Everyone in the whole world knew that Brady was not letting that ball out of his hand again.
I feel like James White had 100 receptions on that drive.
They did.
I mean, he really did.
I was like, yo, are they not putting anybody on James White? Like, what is going on here? Like, they were living off that. I was like, okay.
So we got to talk about the aftermath of the football game. The thing I want to bring up, and I'll let you guys choose. Do you want to go with Feliciano or Brandon Ayuk first?
I
don't care
let's
what
go
you
with
think.
Feliciano.
Yeah,
Okay.
Feliciano.
I got to talk about John Feliciano. So on that play that Chris Jones got in on Brock Purdy, there's a ton of people calling out different offensive linemen on the play. The Colton McKivitz was the one that got called out for the free rush, right? John Feliciano says a quick chop is not needed if the guy that was supposed to block him blocks him. They're talking about Spencer Burford, their 23-year-old second-year guard. And by the way, give all credit to Spencer Burford because, yeah, he missed the block. It is what it is. But his response to Feliciano is incredible. Sheesh. I open up my app to this. Get well soon, bro. Now, Feliciano then retracted and apologized. But this goes to everyone saying that the 49ers have been, still are, will always be an organization that has little to no control of what their players say. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Feliciano, Nick Bosa, talking about how much the Chiefs hold. Kyle, I would love to hear your take on Feliciano's calling out his own teammate on social media to basically a fan. Now, granted, he's a coach of like a college or a high school program that broke the play down, and he's arguing with somebody that's at least breaking the play down. But it's not an NFL player. It's not an NFL analyst. It's not a guy that's well known. I would love to hear your thoughts on Feliciano's comments, Kyle.
Look, as somebody who's a Patriots fan, and a lot of people from the outside would be like, I wonder why Bill is so, protective of the players and why do they all sound robotic or whatever. It's for stuff like this.
Yep.
You don't need, after a loss, a lineman calling out another lineman off of one play, because now it seems like to him that one play is the reason why they're not Super Bowl champions. Where over the course of that game, there are several instances as to why they aren't. So it's something that cannot happen. You would like to think that maybe the Niners would do something about it. They probably won't. And look, Feliciano can say that, he made a mistake and didn't whatever, but it's like you purposefully went to social media, you read whatever, and you typed that out. You knew what you were doing. You were just hoping that maybe Burford or whoever wouldn't find out, which then I would ask, have you ever used social media before? Because even if Burford didn't read it, somebody would have seen it and sent it to him. It just screams of a locker room that's undisciplined. And that has to fall on Shanahan as well as, John Lynch or whoever for bringing these guys in. Look, I don't know, man. It was a bad look after a loss to have him put that out there.
Jory's spot on because they let their players do and say whatever they want. And the dumb hangover excuse, miss me with that BS. I'm with that response. I've had a mean ass hangover now and text dumb shit. Brett, let me ask you.
Look at his Twitter. Look at Feliciano's Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. He's a clown. He's a clown. Look at his Twitter. You go to his Twitter, the first thing you see on there is she got her period, and it's a picture of Diggs and Allen hugging. Or come on, dude.
I get it. This is a professional football offensive lineman calling out one of his teammates. How did you feel about the hangover excuse, Gardy?
It was sad. It's kind of pathetic, and it's almost symbolic of what we've seen from the 49ers. They don't like to take accountability. They like to make excuses. Their heads are never in the right place. We saw that in the game, right? We have the 49ers mic'd up saying, hey, Patrick Mahomes is just an average quarterback. This is symbolic of guys who mentally just they're not all there. They're not making the right decisions.
They're not grounded.
And clearly that's just kind of leaking off the field now. where instead of, taking responsibility and, if you have a hangover, just put your phone down, go to sleep it off. Don't call out your teammate. To me, it just shows that that team is in disarray and they're just kind of allowed to do whatever and they're mentally not right.
I completely agree with you. Godfrey, you were saying something?
Listen, they're not grounded, right? And it's really easy to have great team culture when you're winning. Okay. How are you going to respond to a loss? How are you going to respond to adversity? And 2 years in a row, we've seen adversity for the Niners in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles. We're nothing but excuses. This is where my hatred started for the Niners and their fans. And then we're starting to hear it now in the Super Bowl. For you to talk that way about Patrick Mahomes tells me you're not grounded. And you as a coach have to ground your players and be like, that's not how we do here. We're going to handle our business. And if we get beat, we're going to take it like men. They don't take it like a man. They're not like, I hated that when I heard the Saints whining about the play against the Vikings and, we would have beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl if we beat them. Definitely. Well, you didn't. My grandmother had balls. She'd be my grandfather. Okay. Like, I don't want to hear, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like that's the product you put out on the field. And then you're calling out your teammate afterwards. That's not good team construction. I mean, that's pretty bad. Like especially the O-line. The O-line, you don't hear that too often. The O-line's usually a pretty tight unit. And that is like, dude, seriously, like, and he's younger. You're calling out one of your young. You need to ruin this kid's confidence.
He's 23, second year of his rookie contract,
and you're gonna ruin this kid's confidence, like And I
love the way he responded, though, Godfrey. He responded like an adult.
Yeah,
he goes, "I hope you get better,"
and that's the way to be. And and they got a good young player there, Feliciano. I mean, that's sounds like ego, and he's an overgrown child. I can't co-sign stuff like that. And then but we've heard things like this come out of the locker room. Like Debo set himself up for the Fletcher Cox comment, talking about. I was like, yep, and Fletcher said he was sitting on it, and I'm glad he was. And you know what? Listen, he's like, I still got one of these. You still looking for one? Like talking about the ring, and that's what he gets for trying to talk that crap after you've accomplished the goal. To me, that says to them that their confidence was overconfident and not respecting their opponent. They felt they already arrived, like they won the game.
You are absolutely correct, Godfrey. And I also do want to shout out Kyle, because Kyle nailed Juwan Jennings having a great game. The guy almost won Super Bowl MVP. But the one thing that nobody talks about is on that pass to Christian McCaffrey that was a touchdown. That was a terrible, terrible play by the 49ers. They got away with it. That should have been a pick six. If Buford, the guard, it's so funny because Buford, the guard that replaced that was in the game, he actually chipped the safety who was coming up to make the play on the ball, and McCaffrey took that ball into the end zone. But that would have been a pick six if Buford
was that a legal man downfield too.
It probably should have been.
Yeah,
I just think that the referees were so concerned following the play they didn't realize what was happening.
I thought it should have been, because I've seen that called on the Eagles a lot. Because of the way their offense runs.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that should have been called. No one ever brings that up, though. The losing side will never be like, yeah, well, we got away with that one. No one ever evens it out.
49ers put out all these tapes of like missed holds and scripted and Taylor Swift. It's all excuses, man. I'm tired of the excuses. The one thing I'll say about this, right? I'm not happy with my Eagles, right? I'm pissed off at my Eagles. But they handled out the Super Bowl loss last year like men, and they had all the reason in the world to complain about that call at the end of the game. And Bradbury stood on that. So if I give Nick Sirianni credit for something, he's at least creating a culture of accountability.
Yeah. Plus, as an Eagles fan, when calls like that happen, in my mind, I'm like, does that burn? Does that sting? Does that feel good? No one felt sorry for us. I will not feel sorry for anyone ever after that Bradbury call.
Derek Dempsey.
I want to get a T-shirt that says that wouldn't have been pass interference on Bradbury. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like,
Derek Dempsey also called the Juwan Jennings thing too. I wanted to give him a shout out.
How about McCole Hardman game winning? I didn't think that was.
Yeah, Nicole Hardman. My Tayshaun Gibson didn't work out very well, but I think it was working out great until Greenlaw got injured. But
I'm such an idiot. I should have put like $20 on a Mecole Hardman anytime touchdown. Of course, I didn't. It was probably like plus 1,400 or
it's
something.
funny because you would have had a good shot in the first half because he caught that bomb and landed at the 8 or 9 yard line before what's his name fumbled.
Yeah, what a season turnaround for him. He ended up on the Jets. Aaron Rodgers ruptures his Achilles, gets traded back to the Chiefs, makes the game-winning catch. They said he didn't even know it was a game-winning catch. He's like, we won. And Patrick's like, we won. Like, I just,
Quick opinion, guys. Do you guys think that, just wondering, do you guys think that the 49ers players not knowing the overtime rules, like, do you think that mattered? I thought it mattered, but a lot of people didn't seem to think it mattered. And the one thing I want to point out is Kyle Juszczyk said he didn't know the rules. Then he walked back the statement and said, we knew the rules. Of course we knew the rules. And then the mic'd up came out and he's like to his teammate, he's going, if they score a touchdown or if we score a touchdown, they still get the ball. And they're like, yeah. He's like, I didn't know that. And he literally admits not knowing it during the football game. I think it mattered that they didn't know the rules. I think Kyle Shanahan knew the rules. He had a very thought out answer. He said, I want the ball third, even though he would never got the ball third. But do you think it mattered that they didn't know the rules?
I think it could have mattered by the way they're approaching the game, for sure. Kyle Juszczyk, by the way, very surprised. This guy is a Harvard graduate. Okay. A very smart guy. But, I'm always surprised by that because, like, all of us probably at one point in our life as a kid dreamed of maybe being a professional football player when we were 10, 12 years old, right? And a lot of these guys are getting to live out their dream. I would know the ass inside out of every damn rule of the damn game if I was playing. You know what I mean? Like, and it almost feels like to me that some of these guys are just so naturally gifted that they just take for granted their trade and their profession, and they don't know things like that. Like, McNabb didn't know that you can end the game in a tie when he was on the Eagles. I was like, what? How do you not know? I know that. How do you not know that? And, there were certain things. I think some people were overall confused by the new overtime rules and things of that nature. But as a player, you are paid to do this. Like, how do you not know? Like, that's a major, major rule change that they made. It's not like it's, a very like minute rule that's buried in the rule book. That's a major thing.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, before they start overtime, the ref isn't there talking just for his own pleasure. Like, he explains kind of what's going on. So for Juszczyk to still have no idea, I don't get that. And plus, yes, they changed the rule, but that's something that should have been talked about, I don't know, day one of training camp or something, alerting the guys to, hey, these are the new rules in the league, and hammer it home then. You can't tell me that you've gone basically 20 games into a season, get into an overtime situation, and not know what's going on. That probably speaks to a lot of what we talked about with the Niners of they just don't have discipline. It's almost like, that like sports lingo, like the inmates run the asylum.
Yeah,
players are just allowed to do what they want, think what they want, and Shanahan's just there on the sideline to hopefully win a game. Like it was fascinating. And as Godfrey said, a dude from Harvard can't understand an overtime rule.
It goes back to the thing I talk about a lot. You notice these mistakes, and the common theme is it's a younger head coach. Andy Reid's team was prepared.
They practiced it for 2 weeks.
Bill Belichick's teams would be prepared. I would tell you that
Brett Gardapi's teams would be prepared.
I could tell you Mike Shanahan wouldn't be playing that mess, Kyle Shanahan's dad, if it was his team. So, you know what I mean?
Mike Tomlin would have them first on it. All of them.
33. What are your thoughts? Do you think it mattered?
I think it absolutely mattered. Like, first off, did they not talk about all this? Like, they had 2 weeks between their last game and the Super Bowl. Like, what did they talk about? Like, did nobody mention, like, oh, by the way, the Super Bowl rules, here's a reminder. Like, did that not get brought up once in the 2 weeks?
They're picking out the right boombox to come out with in San Francisco.
Did that not get mentioned at all during, when the rules came out or in training camp? Like, That's just a lack of discipline. And I think it makes all the difference because maybe Kyle Shanahan says that we want the ball first, but if these guys know the rules, maybe a couple of the respected leaders of Reds come, hey, you know what? Maybe we should let Mahomes, see what he does, and then we answer. Maybe somebody talks to him and talks him out of it. So I think it does matter because maybe it changes the outcome of what happens. So absolutely, this was huge.
They could have told him about it, and they just didn't retain the information too. That's possible.
Yeah, I'm just very floored that an NFL team just didn't understand the overtime rules in the biggest game of the year. But what I will, let's put a butterfly on Feliciano talk, the Super Bowl talk. Brandon Ayuk's brother got on Twitter and said, that's why we're staying in Vegas. We're done with this. Go with what got you there. Your thoughts on Brandon Ayuk, and do you think he'll be back in the 49ers uniform next year?
Who? Brandon Ayuk's brother? Is he does he play golf? Who is he? Is he? I don't know if they can afford to keep him because of the money he's going to pay him. But let's not forget, Brandon Ayuk was in the doghouse a couple years ago. He was a forgotten player in the 49ers system. And they were like, why is he not being used as often?
I can't believe how many people have him higher rated than I think he is. Like, I was watching a couple shows that they were saying Brandon Ayuk and they were playing that type of game. And I was floored with the receivers. They were taking Brandon Ayuk over Terry McLaurin, Brandon Ayuk over Chris Olave. I'm like, they're
out of their freaking minds.
I would take Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin. I would even take T. Higgins, who I'm not a fan of.
I'll take Terry McLaurin with a high ankle sprain over a healthy Brandon Ayuk. How about that?
I'm with you.
Like, are you kidding me? Like,
I swear, this is not a joke. I've seen many shows that have overrated Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk's going to get paid, and a lot of people think he's going to go to Las Vegas.
Listen, and maybe he does well. Maybe he flourishes in a different system, a different QB. But I just don't think. I think he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he's top tier. I mean, better than Chris Olave. Chris Olave runs routes in his sleep.
Yeah.
Like what? Like he was a better route runner.
He was better than Garrett Wilson. I'm like, Garrett Wilson would dance circles around him. I'm not kidding.
What show is this? Was this a clown show?
Multiple podcasts I follow.
Sometimes people just put takes out there to just be different. Sometimes I swear, just to make a hot take. Because I don't understand how you can watch any film from any game of those players that were mentioned above and you come out saying, you know what? Ayuk's a more complete receiver than Garrett Wilson. I think didn't Garrett Wilson have a better season than Brandon Ayuk? Or no, he didn't. He didn't. But Garrett Wilson was handicapped by bad QB play. Let's 100%. Acknowledge that.
2 straight years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Ayuk is.
Oh, Brandon Ayuk or Garrett Wilson? I'm kidding. What did you think of Brandon? What do you think Brandon Ayuk is back, and what did you think about his brother's comments?
I mean, I'm assuming Ayuk's probably going to be gone because the Niners will look a little differently next year. But this goes to almost the same thing with Feliciano. If you're hungover, stay off social media. I don't need to hear from an athlete's brother, cousin, or whatever. Unless you're their agent and you're kind of letting us know something about that, you can keep it to yourself. Whatever. But I do think Ayuk's probably going to be gone.
Guardy 3, what do you think he's at, Guardy 3?
I think it's easy. I think he's gone. And the answer is real simple. He's a good player, but money, there's just not enough of it to go around. And if anybody doesn't know, the 49ers have 6 different guys paid at the top 3 in their position. So the money that they're saving on Brock Purdy, they're spending it. And they're at a point where they're going to have to start making tough choices. And Brandon Ayuk's going to want, top of the market receiver money. He's going to be trying to maximize his.
And some bad team's going to give it to him. Christian Kirk got it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think he's gone because he's going to want too much. So I think they just trade him in the offseason.
Oddly enough, I've had Jaguars fans try to tell me Christian Kirk was better than Calvin Ridley. I was like, you're out of your minds.
I actually think he is.
You think so? I don't know, man.
Maybe not next year, but this year he was clearly better. Calvin Ridley might have had a lot of ring rust this year. Might have had some issues understanding what was going on with him and Trevor Lawrence. But Calvin Ridley dropped a lot of balls this year, dude. I think he was like 3rd in the NFL in drop passes.
Yeah, well, listen, when I look at the 49ers, I don't think he'll be back, but they're in a lot of cap trouble, and I feel like they're getting production out of a guy like Juwan Jennings. They're getting they could get production out of another guy, and they're gonna draft someone to replace him. I mean, there's a lot of Trent Williams is getting older, right? I mean, how much longer is he going to be there? And you really, really have to spend your money wisely. And like, Gardy was mentioning, they're you can't pay everyone in the NFL, unfortunately. And that quarterback's going to want to get paid. Everybody thinks that Purdy's just going to sit there like a good little guy until his rookie contract runs out. Yeah, right. Wait till that agent gets in his ear, and after he comes back and is also like, yo, man, it's time to get paid. Psst, psst. You think he's just going to wait 2 more years? If I'm him, I'm getting paid now, bro. I'm getting paid this season.
I'm with you. If I'm Brock Purdy, I'm making sure I get a contract extension today or tomorrow. I finished 4th in the MVP race. You need to get a contract now. You can't play next year for $700,000.
Yeah, either you believe in me or you don't. That's what I'm saying to Brock Purdy. You believe on the guy or you don't believe on the guy. That's it.
I think it'll be a very interesting offseason for Brandon Ayuk. I think it'll be a very interesting offseason for the San Francisco 49ers. Really quick, I want to talk about next year. Way too early predictions for next year's Super Bowl. I gave mine on Wednesday, so I'll give it again first to give you guys a little opportunity to talk about who you guys have. You guys are going to hate mine. Godfrey hates it. He already put in the comments that I'm an idiot, and that's okay.
I don't think I said idiot, but I think
no, you didn't. You didn't. I just wanted to add some dramatic effect to it. I am going to make a bold prediction, and I'm probably going to be wrong. But if it's right, you're going to be able to play this clip, and it's going to be like Georgia winning the national championship for the first time all over again. Next year's Super Bowl, I got the Detroit Lions versus the New York Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers comes back. I think that they shore up that offensive line. And I think they get him some players in this offseason. And I think the Jets defense is already grade A. I think it proved to me watching that team play football. I actually think next year's AFC Championship game is the Jets versus the Bengals. I like them apples. Bengals have $60 million in cap money. Now they're probably going to get 45 after they tag T. Higgins. But I think $45 million in cap space for the Bengals. I like Bengals, Jets, AFC Championship game. I like Lions, Eagles, NFC Championship game. I only added Eagles just to be nice. I really don't like the Eagles in the NFC Championship. I'm lying to you guys. I didn't think that one through. I think the Cowboys are better than the Eagles. I think the 49ers are better than the Eagles. But I don't know. I think the Lions win the NFC next year. Guardy 3. Give me your Super Bowl prediction. And it better have the Packers in it. I'm kidding. You can put whatever you want.
No, I'll make a joke. If the NFL scripted, I'm ready seeing Jordan Love versus Aaron Rodgers next year in the Super Bowl. But my actual pick, my way too early Super Bowl prediction, give me Bengals and Lions.
Oh, 2 Lions in a row. Lions aren't the favorite in the NFC. I thought I was going to be bold, but apparently not. Kyle Edwards, who you got?
I like Bengals in the AFC.
Okay.
NFC. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's the Niners again. Maybe the Niners are the new age Buffalo Bills. So I'll say Bengals, Niners.
Circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. Guardian. All right, Godfrey, what do you got? Close this out.
Yeah, I mean, tough one for the NFC, but I like Lions Bengals in the Super Bowl for a first-time Super Bowl winner.
I love that. I love that. Thank you guys for tuning in this week to Sideline to Sideline. We are up against the clock right now. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That is taking it deep with D. Godfrey. The Prince of Production, Kyle Edwards, and not guarding the 2. He's guarding the 3. Now, if you're looking for something to do a little bit later tonight, I think the N1 podcast is on in just an hour.
Yep, 8:15.
All right, let's tune in. N1 podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We are signing out. Boom.